But the Trish, the one that does my challenges, she also does all my like tech editing for my patterns because I write in this like totally weird way and she translates it so everyone else can understand.
It's not. Everyone needs a Trish.
We do. Everybody needs a Trish. It's true.
You're listening to Fussy Cutters Club podcast, a show that gives you permission to cut into the good fabric so you can make quilts you love. And now your host, who believes it's not a crime to love using novelty fabrics, Ange Wilson.
Hello, Fussy Cutters. Today I am sitting down and having a conversation with Kim from Project Quilting, or you actually might know Kim from her design house brand blog called Persimon Dreams. I sat down today to talk to Kim because Kim is in the very rarefied space of running an online event and having run a successful online event now for a number of years, which is a massive achievement and one that I take my hat off to because she is single-minded and focused about it, something that I am not at the best of times. And so it was a real pleasure to get to talk to Kim and learn a little bit more about Project Quilting and find out how you can participate, which I strongly encourage you to do. Kim runs it every year, and so you can jump in at any time and play along. Kim has a really interesting story about how she got involved in it, and I can't wait to share that with you. So let's get chatting. Welcome, Kim. We've got Kim from Persimon Dreams. Persimon Dreams?
Persimmon, yep.
Yeah, my accent makes that word sound really weird.
I think it sounded great.
Thank you. So Kim is here. She's a former 100 Days, 100 Blocks I was going to say contestant. You know, she made it to the semifinals but didn't find love. Former participant. And now Kim runs her own yearly challenge called Project Quilting. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I guess, can you tell us a bit about, we'll start with Project Quilting first. Can you tell us a little bit about what Project Quilting is?
Sure. So Project Quilting is a challenge that I run on my website or my blog. And basically what happens is on Sundays during the season at noon, Wisconsin time or Central Standard Time, a new quilt challenge gets posted. And you have 1 week to start and finish the challenge. It's been going on. We're currently in season 15. So it's been happening for a long time. And typically I get near, like, if not over 200 participants each challenge. The season runs for 6 challenges, which is actually 12 weeks because we do give 1 week off. So like if you need to like prep food or like do your laundry or dishes and like make your family not hate you, you get time to do that so that you have a week to quilt. So yeah, it's become this really cool thing. I started it because I saw Project Runway and I like thought I should make clothes, but then I realized I have zero fashion sense.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't be for me. So I'm like, well, I quilt. How can I make this cool? And so that's where I was like, the thing I loved about Project Runway is like they had such a time frame, like such a limited amount of time that you had to like make a choice and stick with it. And sometimes it was amazing and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But with quilting, it's like you can try some new stuff. And if it doesn't work, oh, well, you didn't waste too much of your time on it. And if it does work, you can like use that to make a bigger project later.
So
I don't know if that's...
No, that's good because I too share a love of Project Runway, and I too dreamt of making fashion and quickly realised that no, stick to the straight seams and the 100% quilt and cotton. So
exactly.
Yeah. I did, however, I got invited to the first grand final presentation night on Project Runway Australia. So I have sat on a Project Runway catwalk. So
oh my God.
I know, it was very exciting. And I look back on it now.
So jealous.
I'll send in the show notes, I'll link to the photo of me under the Project Runway sign if I can find it. So completely understand. And I've often had the thought, if only we could convert something to quilting. Like you see the Great British Sewing Bee and they occasionally do a little bit of quilting, and a lot of quilters go on there. And so it's really fun that this challenge exists for the quilting community to participate in. And can you give an example of what some of the challenges have been?
Sure. Well, I'll go through what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to another one. So, I know this isn't going to be posted right whenever we did it, but the first challenge of season 15 was birdhouse.
Yep.
So we just have to be inspired by birdhouse. I actually I make a quilt called a Dresden Neighborhood. It's my original pattern, and you can like tweak it all different ways. And I decided to play around with that a little bit for the birdhouse challenge. I don't know if I have my quilt. Well, you can't see it anyway. So, and I just sort of tweaked that a little bit, and I made birdhouses instead of regular houses. So it was just a fun way to play around with the Dresden plate.
Yeah.
And I did do some fussy cut with some Charlie Harper fabric for it. So
there's a little bit of fussy cutter in all of us. And we will link to photos and stuff of these things and the patterns in the show notes so people can go and grab them. Yeah.
Perfect. So another one that we did that's actually become the logo of Project Quilting, it's the challenge was called String Along With Me. And we could only use strips of fabric that were 1.5 inches width or thickness. And that's what you had to use for your challenge. And that's when I came up with my amazing Technicolor Dream Heart quilts. And I can send you links too of this stuff.
Yep.
And what I did there is I took my Dream Heart or the strips of fabric, and I did this thing I call freeform. It was freeform like raw edge applique. Like it's not even a thing. I just like made it up. I took like a piece of fabric and I drew my heart on it. And then I just like put where I wanted different colors to be. So it'd be like very rainbow. And I just like stitched raw edge strips of fabric onto the fabric and like just kept building. So it's almost like a collage.
Yep.
But no, I didn't use fusible or anything. I just kept sewing strips on. And then once it was like the way I wanted, I like blended strips in, I like glued mirrors on. I just like had a ton of fun. But that's like the heart quilt you see behind the Project Quilting logo. So that was done in a week. And that was probably the most insane project I did in 1 week. I don't think my family saw me for the week. Now I make a lot smaller quilts.
So how big is that quilt?
I mean, it's only like probably like not even 3 feet, like 2 feet by 2 feet, but it was just so intense and like so many layers. And then like the back of it looked so bad when I was done stitching all those raw edge seams that I put a new back on it and then I did more quilting and like
yep.
It was one of those.
That's an old trick. Just two bigger backings.
Yeah. Two backings, hide a bunch of that.
You can't do it in a show, but you can do it in real life.
Hey, it's been in the show. It went in the show, so there you go.
Ray Lee, who quilts my quilts, I've often said to her, can't we put a faux backing on these if we enter them in the show and just put the nice stitching on there? And she's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I don't think that's how mine was more in the show for artsy stuff. So I think they forgive a little more.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite? Or is that your favorite challenge so far?
My favorite challenges, I think, so we try to make challenges. So my friend actually comes up with the challenge because I also want to be inspired. And I can't keep a secret.
Yep.
So like she doesn't send me the challenge till like the Saturday before I post on Sunday. So like if people run into me, I can't accidentally blurt out what it is.
Oh, so you're like the Tom Holland of the quilting world. Can't keep a secret.
I cannot keep a secret. It's so horrible. So she's learned not to tell me until the very last minute. I do need a little bit of notice because I got to prep the blog posts and stuff. But my favorite is we try not to make people have to like leave their homes. We try to make it so like you can use whatever fabric you have in your stash, etc. But a couple of the challenges is like go to a hardware store or and if you don't have a hardware store, like go online to a like online hardware store and like be inspired by objects. So I did one quilt once where it was like, I think I made like flowers and I was inspired by like washers. I think I even put washers on it and stuff, like just like taking unusual concepts and adding them into my quilts. That's my favorite challenge. Yeah, like that sort of like the in Project Runway, the non-traditional material challenge. That would be my challenge. I would be like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of Project Runway. When they have to make stuff out of like string and garbage bags and plastic stuff that ends up in the ocean. And so just so I've got it in my head, everybody that's participating gets to sew along with the challenge. It's not, you don't pick like this week we're going to do 10 people, next week you will do a different 10 people. Everybody.
Yeah, no, whoever wants to participate. Yep, everybody can participate. It's online, so like there's not even like, I mean, we've had quite a few Australian participants. It's just you have to convert the time zone to your time zone. So you have essentially the same amount of time we do. You just might be sleeping when the challenge initially gets posted. But yeah, it's like open to anybody that wants to participate. There's no sign up. There's no fees. If you have a hard time linking up, because I know linking up can be confusing for some people, I just have them email me and I'll do that part, like a picture in their story. And I like create this little blog on Blogger to make the link up for them. Because I really just want as many people participating as possible. And we've had brand new quilters. We have like seasoned quilters. We've had like award-winning quilters. Everybody has like joined in the PQ fun. So
it's pick and choose, right? If I started season 15 next week, I don't have to do all of them. I can just go through and go, oh yeah, this one speaks to me, that one doesn't.
Correct. Yeah. Like you can do 1, you can do 3, you can do 6. The only incentive really to do 6 is I do have a ton of prizes. I have amazing sponsors. So each week that you participate, like per the rules, which a lot of times like the theme this week is birdhouse. Like if you can interpret birdhouse however you want. And as long as you tell us how it's incorporated into birdhouse, we're going to be like, awesome. Thank you for creating. We're very not particular. And I don't think I've ever thrown out a quilt from qualifying because this is really just to like inspire and support people. So yeah, you can do as many as you want. The only incentive is there is a grand prize. So every time you enter a regular season challenge in the time frame, the big thing is the time frame, you get your name entered in the grand prize. And if you did all 6, you would get a 7th entry. So that's like the incentive to do all 6. But like literally I've had people that have won the grand prize that have done 2. Like it doesn't matter. It's still just a random drawing.
Yeah. So the project has to be a quilt. So the only parameters is that it has to have 3 layers stitched together by hand or machine.
We're also like pretty lenient about like if somebody wants to make a piece of clothing that's sort of patchworky, we're pretty lenient about it. The big thing is like we try to like stick away from like just like the really simple pillowcase. That one's pushing it, but I won't eliminate it either. You know what I mean? Like the envelope pillowcase, like not just a normal quilt that's made into a pillow, but like
so a pillowcase that you would do to like, there's some projects.
Yeah, it's like the ones that like are just like you roll them up and you make a pillowcase.
And the burrito pillowcase. Yep.
Yeah, the burrito pillow. I kept trying to say envelope. I'm like, it's not envelope. Burrito pillow. Like
burrito.
We'd prefer to be a little more quilty than that. But again, we're not going to yell at you. Like, dude, you created. This is all about like getting to your machine. In America right now, it's like really cold winter. So like it helps us get through these like icky months sort of. So
yeah. I completely understand. So you've got a friend who comes up with the challenges. Is she a quilter?
She is a quilter, yes. But she's also has a history, like she was a librarian. She like used to write for newspapers and stuff. So and I was an engineer.
Oh, of course. Yep.
One of her favorite So one of her favorite things to do for me is she puts on these really big words. Like she at least puts one big word in every challenge post. And her favorite thing is to see which one I like link up to a dictionary to help other people know what it is. This challenge, she had to say clouder about her cats, which I guess is a bunch of cats. I don't know. I wouldn't just say my 3 cats, but let's use clouder.
Group noun. So that's pretty cool. It's nice that you've got a little in-joke for each other. And I know this sounds really funny, but in my experience, there's a lot of engineers that are now quilters. I don't know whether it's like, I assume there's something within quilting that appeals to engineers the same way engineering does. Like there's got to be some sort of overlap. But it always amazes me when they run into another engineer. Do you miss?
Oh, are you an engineer?
No.
Oh, okay. Just like there's a lot.
Yeah. If I was responsible for engineering things, stuff would be falling down all over the place. It's amazing that I can do the math for the quilt stuff. We have a tech editor on staff, contractor, just to double check because I am so bad with anything mathematical. So it always amuses me.
But the Trish, the one that does my challenges, she also does all my like tech editing for my patterns because I write in this like totally weird way and she translates it so everyone else can understand.
It's nice. Everyone needs a Trish.
We do. Everybody needs a Trish. It's true.
So it started in January. You said there's 6 challenges throughout the year.
Yep. It just goes like,
you don't have an idea of what's coming up. So you can't kind of go, this challenge series is all about birds, but this one's going to be all about. Yeah. So really, it is just an exciting luck of the draw, sign up, see what happens.
Yeah, you don't even need to sign up. Just head to my website at noon on that day or afternoon on that day and you see the challenge. And if you are inspired at some point that week to make a quilt, you make it. And then it's part of the fun.
So have any of the participants' quilts gone on to do big and bold things? Like I know that a couple of your quilts from the projects have made it into shows and won ribbons in shows. Do you know of any contestants that have done the same thing?
I know at least one of them, she's had her quilt published in a book. And I do know like a couple of them that have like done project quilting and then they've like moved on to like be teachers and like do like bigger and better things too. Yep. So yeah, it's been like, it's a nice starting point too. The other cool thing about it is I do have a group called Challenge Quilts on Facebook and it's just called Challenge Quilts, not Project Quilting. There is a Project Quilting Facebook, but the group is just Challenge Quilts because I want it to be like, if you know of a challenge anywhere, like a quilt challenge anywhere, post it. It doesn't have to just be Project Quilting, but just like the encouragement and the supportiveness in the group, it's pretty amazing. Like I know like some of these online communities can get a little aggressive or judgy. And that's not at all what we're about. Like if your binding isn't perfect, nobody's going to say, hey, your binding's bad. We're going to say like, hey, look what you did. You finished something that's amazing. Like if somebody wants some advice on something, there's somebody there that will give the advice or like find a link to help them out. But it's just like such a cool supportive group. And like, I know I've learned tons from other people and hopefully I've helped inspire other people too. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. And that's been my experience too. 98% of the quilting community would give you a kidney if they thought you needed it. And I love every year with 100 days. And I've done it myself. I've made a block. I wrote the pattern, so I should know what's in there. I make a block and I post it. And the minute I hit post, I go, oh, I've misput those pieces in and that's not the block. They're reversed or they're upside down or something. And I'm like, don't say anything. No one notice. And without fail, every comment on there is a supportive, looks great, love what you've done, love your color palette, da, da, da. Even in the instances where I've seen someone go, psst, you might have put it in upside down. Then someone will come up and go, actually, I really love it upside down. Upside down makes it so much cooler. And so I've seen people post to others have said, oh, I'm really struggling with how to keep the pieces in the proper order. And so people then post, have you tried design boards? Have you done this? This is my technique for doing it. And so it's one of the things I love. And I think Project Quilting feeds into that because, like you said, it is obvious from all of your website, your social media, everything. You are all about supporting and promoting that inclusiveness and creativity and just having a go at doing something a little bit different, which is great. So can you tell us, you were an engineer, right? And we've covered the fact that you're obviously an awesome quilter. How did you get started in quilting?
Well, I've always been creative, even when I was a kid and stuff. And I had awesome art teachers in middle school and high school that like, even at conferences, they would tell my parents like, hey, buy her whatever supplies she wants. She'll use them, you know, and luckily my parents listened and they've always supported my creativity. When I was a senior in high school, I found out I was going to be going to University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is a pretty decent university here. And I'm like, well, I need a quilt. So I made myself a quilt. I went to this store called Walmart, which is like probably the cheapest fabric you can purchase. I bought my fabric. I cut out my 6-inch piece of paper and I like pinned it to the fabric. So I cut with the scissors. Sure, it wasn't even a fabric scissors. I sewed myself a quilt. I still have it. I covered up this like really crappy bedspread that had like 90s style fabric. It's so horrible. But all my fabric wasn't even quilting cotton. So there's like huge holes and stuff in it. But whatever, it was awesome. And when I went to college, then everybody knew that I was the girl that could like sew up their clothes if they like broke or something. And like some Friday nights, I'm like, do you really want me using a needle right now? But okay. And then I met my now husband. I knew right away that he was going to be my husband, but it took him a little bit longer.
Men are often slower on the uptake. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew right away. I was like, yeah, this is the dude. So his mom is a quilter. And the first time I went to their house for dinner, I looked around and it was all like these stunning quilts and like all this handcrafted amazingness that she had done. And I was like, oh, this woman's going to love me. And to this day, she still does. They live 2 miles away from us and they help us run our apple orchard. And she's a wonderful lady. I'm sure someday she's like, who is this woman? But that's okay. So on Tuesday nights when I was in college, she would give me a quilting lesson and make me a home cooked meal. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was awesome. So she taught me. Yeah. And she taught me.
Do you live so close by design, or is that just how it happened?
Yeah. So my husband bought this. I live in an apple orchard. I am very much a city girl, and I can handle the farm life of an orchard because it's really only a few months a year for me. Like I don't do a ton of stuff because I'm not a huge bugs and dirt person.
I feel you.
But I'll do it if I have to. Like if the family needs me to help, I will be out there and I'll plant the trees and do what I need to, but I'm not going to go looking for what needs to be done unless they tell me this is what needs to be done. So he bought an orchard about 10 miles from his parents' orchard. And we eventually just moved the whole operation over here because we had more trees. We had the commercial kitchen. We have the cider press. We have all the stuff. And once the operation moved over here, his parents still wanted to help out a lot. And they found a house like 2 miles away. And it's good. I have 3 daughters and they're like super close with their grandparents. And it's good. I had a rule right away, though. Like if my curtains are shut, it means do not come in my house. So like setting those boundaries right away, like saved our relationship, I'm sure. So
you're preaching to the choir, sister, because we live 800 meters away from my parents. They're on the same property as us. So they've got their house and we've got our house. And it's been the best thing we've ever done because we went from having no relatives near us to now having family really close. And it's been a real blessing. So I completely understand. I am so intrigued about the apple orchard. So do you find the apples inspiring your quilting at all? Have you done an apple quilt?
Oh, definitely. I've done apple quilts. I do a lot of trees. Trees are in my quilts a lot. I think the house thing is in my quilts a lot because of like my engineering background. Even I wasn't an architect, but it was so lame. I designed subdivisions. I designed like the roads for where like
yeah, because a friend of mine's used to be a town planner, and that was her thing. And we used to often joke about how they'd come up with names for streets and stuff. Yeah. And my big goal in life was to get her to name a street after me. She didn't.
Did she do it?
No. Oh. I was like, GnomeAngel Avenue, GnomeAngel Drive. And we spent a lot of time talking about driveways. I never knew driveways were such a bone of contention. So that's not lame at all. The great people work on subdivisions.
Well, it was like I didn't get to do the cool stuff though. I just got like the plan and I just had to put in the like specifications and figure out how to balance the dirt and it wasn't that exciting.
It's cool. And
I was the girl they went to whenever they had to do planning, like, or if they would go to a meeting and they needed a display. Like a lot of the other guys, they were colorblind and they would be like, okay, just bring this to Kim. I was like the intern and they were like, no, just bring this to Kim. She's going to fix this.
Take it to the creative person. She'll make it look pretty. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So lots of roads, lots of houses, lots of trees. Do you find that the apple orchard influences your color palette at all? Because in my head, I imagine apple orchard, Hallmark movie, in autumn, it's very autumnal with all the different oranges and, and then now in snow, it's like skeletons of trees in the white of the snow. And
it is. I would say my quilting has influenced the colors we put in the orchard. So our orchard, it's not a pick your own orchard, but we let people walk around it and stuff. And we put up a lot of like sort of art installments or like fun things. So like one thing we have is this huge chair, like that. I don't know. That's like a thing here is you take pictures by this big chair.
Yep.
But instead of just painting it one color, we like painted it all the colors and all the patterns. So it's this huge, bright, amazing chair. And like we have really fun, like we took old tires that couldn't be used anymore and we made those walls and then planted flowers in them. So there's like tons of color and like it's all like random things, like grills are like old grills that don't work anymore. Those are now planters. And I have like old, very, very old sewing machines that would not be fixed. I like glitter them and just like, and it's all just like random, wonderful, like little treasures you get to find as you like explore the orchard.
That's awesome. And do your daughters sew? Did they?
So my oldest daughter doesn't really sew. She'll do some raw edge applique, but that's about it. And like she won't sew it down. She'll just like cut it out and stuff and like make a plan for it, but not really too often. Her thing is like if I like it, she's not gonna like it.
Oh yeah,
which is totally yeah.
Yeah.
My middle child is very artistic. She'll make a quilt here and there. And my youngest daughter also, but their grandma teaches them more than I do. I'm not very patient. So, but it's sort of nice. Like the sewing machine they have here is the same one their grandma uses. So they know how to use it. And like they have free range. If they have an idea, they can make it. Like I'm not going to stop them. So
our son, if given the choice between like a commercial Target doona and I don't know whether you call them doonas in America, but a comforter and a quilt that mum made, he'll take the quilt hands down. But if you said to him, do you like the quilt that mum made? He'll be like, eh. And so do you find the girls kind of instinctively prefer one over the other or that they lean towards
I think they're more of like a layering. They're like more of a layering. Like my daughters, like they all have like the comforters and then on top of it, they put the quilts because the quilt like keeps it heavier and keeps them a little bit warmer, but the comforter's a little more cozy.
Yeah. Well, because the other thing I find too now is when our son's friends come over, they don't have quilts in their homes. And so it's always, can I have one of those? Can I and you're like, yeah, sure. But I mean, we came from cold environment to the tropics. So of course it's a bit different. But I find the boys, because they're all 11, the boys like finding the stuff in the quilts, the Star Wars fabrics and the, hidden gems and all that sort of stuff. So it's always really funny. And I often wonder whether the partners they pick or the lives they live after this will have some sort of quilt in it because they've fallen in love at such an early age with that whole handmade side of things. Which brings me back to Project Quilting because Project Quilting is really encouraging that in people as well. So, because I imagine a lot of these end up as wall hangings. Do you find a lot of wall hangings?
Yeah. So my house is just like covered in quilts. Like my house is not like my walls are covered in like the wall hanging quilts. I have like a faux tin ceiling in our family room, but it's not just one tin. It's like 6 of them that I patchworked on the ceiling. And like I was like sad one holiday season, so I went and I got a bunch of cheap ornaments and I made like strings of ornaments and I hung them in my kitchen and they like live there year round. So like their friends will come over for the first time and they're like, did you guys just have a party? And my kids are like, no, this is just our mom.
This is how we live.
And also like with the week long, this is her. She's whatever. And like all the friends, like they're so used to me now. But even like these week-long challenges, like you don't always have a ton of time. So like you'll often see me on the sideline of a basketball game or a softball game, stitching my binding or something on. So these kids have all like grown up watching me make these quilts. And my oldest, she's 17. So the next year they'll be graduating. And I'm so excited because I'm going to start like giving her friends quilts and stuff for graduation. And I know they're going to appreciate it because they grew up watching me do it.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I'm so excited. And they're going to have like more exposure than a lot of people. So it's cool.
And we don't, I was going to say, we don't have the same college culture that the US has, but our guys go to university, obviously. And that's the thing that I think about. If he chooses to go away to study, like if he chooses to study and then he goes away to study, I think his room will have like 20-something quilts in it because mum will be like, here you go, buddy, here's have another one. Oh, look, in case that one gets dirty, here's another one. But
I know I'm making them quilts so they can like lay them on the lawn and study. And I'm like, oh, it'll be such a cute like picture and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I'm so excited.
It's funny. Do you find when you make, so when I sew, I often tell myself a story about the fabrics that are like, I sew on theme. All the fabrics have some sort of theme to it or a story to it. Or so when you're doing these challenges, do you tell yourself some sort of story or that goes with the theme? Do you emotionally connect with these challenges?
I think it depends on the challenge and like what's going on. And I think like earlier when the seasons first start, like when I first started doing this, I did a lot more. But like for instance, like season 1, there was 90 quilts made in the 6 challenges. I think it was 8 challenges season 1. And then I cut it back down to 6. And now we're getting like 1,200.
Yeah.
So for me personally, Project Quilting is like get it done so I can get all the behind the scenes done and keep this thing going. So it just depends. Like some challenges are more inspired than other challenges. This one I'm excited because I'm going to write a pattern. Like my whole goal, like each season I try to like create sort of a secondary challenge for myself. So this season I'm trying to do stuff either that I want to like test to see if I can write a pattern for it, or like projects that are in my head that I want to finish at some point. Like I made a temperature quilt like a few years ago, and it's like I did really weird things. Like I have orange when it was like 10 degrees here, which is really cold. So I don't know what I was thinking. So like the whole thing is just sort of weird. And it's also like really long and just like, it's just, I don't know what I was thinking. It's cute and all, but like, it's just one of those things. So I want to make a quilt poncho out of it. And I'm hoping somehow one of these challenges I can be like, oh, time for that quilt poncho. But again, I don't know what the challenge is. So we'll see if it happens.
You're taking the most blobby shaped fashion item and you're going to make it even blobbier by adding 3 layers. I love it.
I am. I'm totally going to wear it to like my girls' basketball games. It's going to be fabulous.
So, they obviously don't get embarrassed easily then, or they do, and that's the joy of it.
No. I think they're just so used to me and their friends are so used to me, like nothing surprises them anymore, if that makes sense. No, they're just like, oh, it's Kim again.
That's a good skill to have. So do you make it a point that you sew every challenge, or do you sit some out?
No, I have never sat one out ever.
Oh, really?
I make a point to do it because I've done every single one, even when I was like sick. I always make it happen because I'm telling people that you can make a quilt in a week no matter what happens.
Oh, yeah.
And so I want to show them, like, yeah, you can make it. Like there was a season where I made 6-inch quilts because that's all I had time for.
Yep.
So, yeah, I do it just because if I'm telling you can do it, then I better show you that I can do it.
Yeah, you're really good because there are seasons of 100 days, 100 blocks where I'm like, I'm just drowning in the background. I'm sorry, I can't make blocks. I was just going to have a look here. I'm sorry, I was scrolling your Instagram feed looking for the temperature poncho.
There's no poncho yet.
No, I know, but the poncho to become. Now, you said early on you did participate in 100 days, 100 blocks, and your blocks were very scrappy but fussy cut to a certain extent. Did you fussy cut? Because I'm looking at, you did the City Sampler one.
I did the City Sampler. That one, the one you just saw, though, is not the one I did. I did the City Sampler one, and I did the Kindred.
Yeah, Kinship one?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Kinship.
Yeah.
Yep. That one I did. I'm like, it's one of the coolest quilts I made. I actually just gifted it for a college grad last year. And I did like a black and white with like one pop of color. And then in the end, I sort of blocked it, like color blocked it. It was really cool and modern-y looking.
Do you have
and the first tulip, I do have a photo. I don't know if I can find it.
No. Afterwards, after the show, I'll get everything off you.
All right. Yeah. So I'm sure I can find a thing for you.
But the tulip pink one.
I don't know which. Yeah, like one of the tulip pinks I did, I think the first tulip pink quilt I did was for your 100 day one. I did. Yeah, I've done 300 of the tulas. So I did one that was really fussy cutty, one that was like indigo, and I used indigos and mustards, and then another one I did. I don't know. I just did it.
You have in your first one. You have some very out of print but amazing Heather Ross, like that.
Yeah.
And that's I look at some of the 100-day blocks and I'm like, oh man, what I wouldn't give for that fabric.
I have a good collection of fabric for sure, but I'm like, I never keep anything. When I sort my fabric, it's by color. It's not by designer or any of that stuff. Like if I get a bundle, I immediately roll it up into my mini bolts and put it on my shelf, so I can't group it together unless I work really hard to do it.
Yeah, and I'm the same. I keep all mine in, they call them underbed tubs, but they're giant rectangles, but they're only about that deep, so they're perfect for a fat quarter, and each tub's a different colour. And I try to now, if a tub busts out, like the colour starts creeping over, that's time for me to go back and weed. And I try to keep my stash manageable. And the only ones that I group by designer are Chula Pink, Lizzie House, and Heather Ross.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. I reckon someone should do a study on how quilters approach their stash, like whether there's a correlation between how they approach other things, and then, I mean, there'd have to be. But anyway, I digress. So the other pattern that you've made of Chula Pink that I'm looking forward to sharing with people is your rainbow butterfly.
Yes, and that I used black too. So I used some of those 100, in the background. Yeah. So, yeah.
So do you have a favorite color palette, or is rainbow just...
It's rainbow. Like, even my kids, like, they'll be like, what's your favorite color? And I always say rainbow. I love all color. I even love, like, baby poop yellow, because baby poop yellow can make other colors just look so gorgeous. So, like, every color has its place. So I can't pick one that's my favorite.
No, you just have to find its buddy, basically. That's the if the color by itself isn't popping for you, you just have to find its buddy. And that's what
honestly, for me, like, I just sew whatever, and I worry about that later. And if it's not looking right, I have no problem just cutting it up and making something else. And like, I totally sew by my gut, if that makes sense. So one of the Project Quilting challenges was, I think it was like inspiration, and I literally made a quilt that's like a patchwork stomach. It's just the shape of a stomach. And so I made a quilt of my stomach. Because I'm like, it was that, and then I put this gauzy fabric on the outside because it's like my stomach and my dreams are my inspiration.
Yeah.
So
nice. Yeah. Nice. I don't think I've ever seen a stomach quilt.
Well, I made one.
Yeah. So you said some of the participants have gone on to be teachers and things like that. Have you ever thought of putting together a best of Project Quilting book, like approaching a publisher and putting something together?
I haven't thought about that, but that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing would be getting like the quilts together and photographing them, and like the logistics would be the thing to figure out.
But if you do pitch it and it takes off, I'll take a 2% commission. Thanks for the idea. No.
2%. All right. I'll make that a note. I'll make a note.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share with the Fussy Cutters Club?
I think just like if you're in a rut, like Project Quilting is a really great way to like, just like get sort of your creativity back, because you just don't have enough time to waffle around. Like you have to make a choice. And sometimes your choice is, I'm going to make a 4-patch quilt and the fabric is going to follow the theme. And that's totally cool. Like it does not have to be anything excessive. Sometimes all you need to get creativity back is to create.
Yeah.
So I hope people just take a chance to check it out. Don't be panicky about the week challenge time frame. Like, I think the only time we've actually had a size requirement was that it had to be bigger than a bread box, and you could tell us how big your bread box was. So, like, it did it. You really could make whatever you wanted.
My loaf of bread is 2 inches by 2 inches.
It is. Sometimes it is.
Other people might call it cracker, but I call it bread.
Yes.
I suppose wafers count as bread. So that is a very sage piece of advice to end on, because I agree. Creativity is a muscle, so the more you use it, the better it gets. And so I'm going to link to Project Quilting. Like you said, it runs all year. They can join in at any time. There are some prizes, but the real prize is sewing along.
It's only January through March. Sorry.
Oh,
it's January through March.
Yep. All right. So,
right.
It should be all year. No. And then Kim's like, shh, I have work I've got to do. So January to March, all the links will be in the show notes. Thank you, Kim, for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Fussy Cutters podcast. Enjoyed listening? Why not subscribe so you'll never miss an episode? Did you know the quickest way to the heart of any podcaster is to leave a review or recommend the podcast to a friend? It's true. It is. Until next week, get out there and fondle that fabric.